Yes, hello and welcome everybody. It's Chris here from the Ministry of Dice and I'm back again today with another one of my video presentation thingamadoodads. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing the third installment of my Dice Masters Affiliations series, specifically taking a look at the Teen Titans Affiliation. If you're new around these parts, then let's just put it into a bit of context. I love the affiliation element of the game of Dice Masters. Playing single affiliation tournaments is perhaps my most favourite way of playing the game. So I've selected a handful of affiliations that I love team building with, that I love playing games with, and I'm working through them video by video in this extended series. And it's probably going to go on for a number of weeks and months yet. I've already done two of the affiliations on the list here. I've taken a look at the Avengers and I've taken a look at the Justice League. It's the Teen Titans turn today. And just so as you know, if you've never seen one of these videos before, the structure is pretty straightforward. The first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the card pool. So how many cards are there attached to this affiliation and in what Dice Masters sets did they appear? Then getting into the card pool a bit more, I'm going to talk about win conditions. So does this affiliation have what it takes to be successful? Does it have what it takes to win new games? And then I'm going to take a look at a few of the cards from that affiliation that I consider the utility and support pieces. Can it ramp? Can it churn? Does it have control? Does it have good protection against its most fearsome enemies? You know, stuff like that, to see whether it's got potential to be a really great affiliation and just generally explain why it's one of the ones that I have selected. So there you go, there's the context and structure. Let's get into it and let's begin by taking a look at the card pool, shall we? So Teen Titans is definitely one of the most smaller affiliations in the game of Dice Masters. It has just 32 cards in the card pool available to it. These cards came from 3 Dice Masters sets historically: War of Light, Batman, and Green Arrow and the Flash. That's at time of recording, which is late 2020. Fingers crossed maybe the Superman Kryptonite Crisis set in 2021 brings a few more cards to build its ranks up, to expand its roster. It's generally quite thematic, though, even though it's got a small card pool, and so your team building selection is a bit tighter than it might be with some of the bigger affiliations. It's generally very thematic, and they have a lovely kind of tribal synergy that wraps them all together. The fact that it's a smaller affiliation is not necessarily a bad thing, though. It can bring disadvantages for team building, but if you're a collector and you want to play with Teen Titans and get your favourite Teen Titans characters on the table, and having a smaller card pool is much easier to kind of focus on and pick up on the secondary market. Or if you're going to do it by grabbing the product, then you've only got 3 sets to focus your attention on. So it's a little bit more challenging to team build, although, as I say, there's that kind of tribal synergy there that sort of makes it a little easier, but it's going to be easy to get your hands on your favourite Teen Titans characters. Let's take a look at some of those cards then, and I'm going to start by focusing on some win condition cards. I'm not going to go through every character with the Teen Titans affiliation. I'm just going to pick some of my faves or some of the kind of standout ones that I've seen played or had fun playing with or against in the past. And in win conditions, there's 2 characters really in the Teen Titans affiliation that could be considered winners, and that's Hawk and Starfire. In fact, all 3 rarities of Starfire are win conditioning by nature. Hawk, it's the uncommon that I'm looking at specifically. Might makes right. He's a 6-cost fist. You can see him on the right hand side of the screen there. And he reads, while Hawk is active, if Dove is KO'd, deal damage equal to Hawk's attack to your opponent. So, Dove is a Teen Titans affiliated character as well, so it kind of fits into the theme there. I'd probably say this is less preferable than the Starfires I'm about to take a look at, because in order to make this one really successful, you need to be able to sort of control the KOing of Dove. And in a Teen Titans build, because you don't have access to sort of KO globals like Nihilor or Blue Eyes White Dragon, you're relying on combat, and she's got a really high defense at a top end. She's hard to kill if you roll her in at level 2 or level 3, and so you doing it through combat can be much more challenging. I have seen some builds be successful using DC focused basic actions like Truce, which causes character KOs, but probably a bit more difficult to put together and make a winner out of compared to the Starfires. So let's have a look at the Starfires then. You got the common there, Princess of Tamaran. She reads, when fielded, deal 1 damage to target opponent for each of your active Teen Titans characters. You got the uncommon, Outlaw, a 5-cost bolt. She reads, while Starfire is active, whenever another Teen Titans character is fielded, deal damage to target opponent equal to that die's fielding cost. And then you've got Starfire Coriander, the super rare, 4-cost bolt. When Starfire attacks, deal 1 damage to the defending player for each other active Teen Titan. So, as a win condition, as a very win damage dealing focused card, clearly heavily relies on other Teen Titans affiliated characters and sort of drives you into the space of making your whole team Teen Titans. So, if you're doing a single affiliation team, then this, of course, is a great fit and a way to win. I'm particularly fond of the super rare and dealing the damage when you attack. I like that you can control it more. I like that you can use cards like Static Field to attack and then pull her back so she's locked and loaded, ready to go in the next turn. But I've definitely seen teams do well with the Princess of Tamaran and Outlaw. Outlaw, the uncommon there, relies on the fielding costs, but as if you kind of keep your eyes out as we're going through, you'll see that fielding costs are reasonably high when it comes to Teen Titans characters. Starfire, the challenge there is the same as using the Hawk-Dove combo, really. The Princess of Tamaran, the common, because once you fielded her, you need to get her killed, and so you can refield her and do the damage again. If you've got max 4 dice, then you may end up limiting your options in terms of being able to deliver the damage. But it's not a kind of one-turn win. It's not a big sweeping winner. It's a grower of a team because they all rely on getting your Teen Titan numbers up in addition to having Starfire there, but I think the super rare is probably the better of the win conditions. So you're kind of locked in really in terms of win condition opportunities. Let's have a look at some of the utility and support, and I'm going to start by talking about the ramp and how you ramp with the Teen Titans. Now this is probably one of its biggest downfalls. It doesn't have a great deal of ramp solutions. You've got Robin here, which was a promo card from the Teen Titans Organized Play Kit, Teen Titans Team Leader. He's got some kind of rampy stuff going on with his global there, which says pay a shield. Once per turn, if you purchased a character die this turn, you may draw a die from your bag and add it to your prep area. So he's got a kind of prep global that relies heavily on buying other characters. Just incidentally, if you have a look at his fielding cost there, you can see he's got 1 and 2 on his level 2 and 3 if you were considering using the uncommon Starfire. And then you've also got Cyborg here as well. He's another rampy option. He's got a global, which is largely referred to as an energy fixer, which allows you to switch a sidekick for free into the shield face. So very limited, small, rampy kind of stuff. If you're building a Teen Titans affiliation, it's likely that you're going to be relying on your basic action pool to drive your ramp and churn options there with things like, investigation, for example, or prep globals on cards like Resurrection. And that's about it, really. That's about it when it comes to ramping with the Teen Titans. They're relatively low cost, largely speaking, but you do playing them fine. That you're just sort of buying one character a turn. It's unlikely that, or certainly in my experience, it's unlikely that you find yourself, doing big maneuvers, buying lots of characters to get it to happen. Which means it can be a slow team, which is not necessarily a problem when you're playing single affiliation, because that's just generally a slower pace of gameplay there, but certainly would mean that Teen Titan synergy isn't competitive in the kind of tournament sense. I'm going to leave Cyborg on the screen and then move on to some other cards here, because what Cyborg also is he's a great blocker. It really illustrates the defensive capabilities of the Teen Titans team. So his main game text there says Cyborg character dice may block an extra character die. Cyborg takes no more than 2 damage from each non-crossover character dice he blocks. Now crossover, if you're not familiar, is when the character needs to be purchased with 2 different energy types, which is less common, and therefore it's more likely that he's going to be blocking non-crossover characters. So he's a great blocker to use when you're facing teams that are loaded up with things like Overcrush, for sure. And the fact that he can block an extra character dice is really powerful too. But I brought Dove up on the screen as well on the left-hand side there. Dove, the Light of Order. She's a 4-cost shield, and she reads, when you take damage or an opponent declares an attack, spin each of your Dove character dice to level 3. And as you can see there in terms of her stats, she's 0-1-1 at level 1, 0-1-5 at level 2, but 1-2-8 at level 3. So having a relatively cheap character that you can get out that can be a big blocker in an instant, and guaranteed to be that big blocker because she'll spin up to that 3rd level when you take damage or when your opponent attacks you. Means that there's some great kind of combat blocking capability in the Teen Titans Affiliation as well, which can really help out, especially when you look at the kind of thumpy nature of some of the other affiliations you might be facing in a single affiliation setup. That's not the extent of their defensive capabilities, though. There's some wonderful kind of control stuff going on in the Teen Titans Affiliation. The big deal, famous popular one is this Raven that I brought up on screen here now. 4-cost Mask, Azarath Metreon Zinthos, and she reads, while Raven is active, your Mask characters and Teen Titans characters cannot be targeted by your opponents. So that is incredibly good control. It stops globals targeting your characters. It stops basic actions that are killers, stuff that does stat switcheroos, stuff that deals direct damage to characters, all that kind of good stuff is out the window. Your Teen Titans are very well protected against that sort of assault. But she's not the only one who brings that lovely bit of control to the table. We've also got cards like Wonder Girl, Cassie Sandsmark, another very well-known meta card from back in the day. 2-cost shield, and she reads, while Wonder Girl is active, when a Teen Titan character die is targeted, you may choose an opponent's character die as the new target for that effect. So if Raven doesn't tickle your fancy, if you want something a bit cheaper and quicker to get out into the field, you've got Wonder Girl, Cassie Sandsmark there, who can redirect targeted effects back towards your opponent's characters. Now, in single affiliation, this doesn't apply, but for a moment's tangent, there was a combo that was very popular back in the day using this Wonder Girl with the Ring of Attraction from Yu-Gi-Oh!, which meant that your opponent had to target the character wearing the ring. So you drop the ring on Cassie Sandsmark, forcing your opponent to always target her, and then use her game text to redirect it back across the field at your opponent. Also, take note, Wonder Girl, she's a cheap Teen Titans character, but look at those fielding costs, 1/1/2, so she's a nice little combo piece with that uncommon Starfire as well, because when you field, you'll be doing a little bit of damage. So there you go. Yeah, absolutely. There's another Raven. I haven't put it into the presentation, but the reason I've kind of got the Cassie Sandsmark and the Raven, and you might want to look at one over the other, is because there's another Raven that could tickle your fancy, which I've not really focused on, but there you go. So more control in there then. Static, Virgil Hawkins, 3-cost Bolt. He reads, while Static is active, whenever your opponent rolls 2 or more dice at once, deal 1 damage to target character die. So you're always guaranteed that your opponent will at least in one instance per round roll more than 2 dice. So you can fire a little bit of damage across the field there. It's nice for thinning the herd, getting rid of sidekicks, clearing out low defense characters. If they do a big secondary reroll, then you could be doing 2 damage to another character. It's just a nice little bit of control to keep weenies in check. He's a bit of a risk, though, because please do bear in mind that you still always have to do the damage and target a character, perhaps one of your own, if there's not one on the other side of the table. So something to be thinking about there and making sure you're keeping an eye on. It would be a lovely combo piece with the Hawk and Dove setup if you could always guarantee that your Dove will be at level 1, which you can't necessarily, but something to think about. And that's about it when it comes to Teen Titans. As you can see, it sort of puts itself together pretty straightforward and fairly simply. There is some more kind of janky stuff in there if you were to take a look at the Atom or some of the other copies of the cards, but those are some of the headline big hitters. So quite a shorter video in terms of the affiliation review today, and brings me to a close. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know there are other Teen Titans characters. I've just shown you my highlights, my headlines, my faves, but there are others that you may be playing with and experimenting with. What are the little combos that I've not talked about today that you use? Who are your favourite Teen Titans characters? How have you found them when using in single affiliation tournaments? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll wrap that one up there and say thank you very much for watching today. I've been Chris. I'm from the Ministry of Dice, and I'll catch you on a podcast, on a blog post, or on another video sometime soon. Ta-ra now.